In the depths of the Orion Arm, the Galactic Confederation survey vessel Light of Dawn drifted silently through an unremarkable sector of space. Captain Zeichtel, her iridescent scales shifting in the soft light of the bridge displays, studied the sensor readings with growing confusion. The object they detected shouldn't be here, not in this empty sector, and certainly not in this condition. Confirmation. First observer, she asked, her translated voice crisp through the ship's systems. First observer Renth adjusted his sensor arrays, the crystalline appendages on his head glowing faintly with concentration. Confirmed, Captain. The object is approximately 300 meters in length, showing signs of advanced metallurgy, and what appears to be primitive propulsion systems. The Light of Dawn approached cautiously. The object in question was clearly a vessel of some kind, its angular hull dark against the backdrop of space. Unlike the sleek, organic lines of Confederation ships, this vessel was all hard edges and armored plates, looking more like a primitive projectile weapon than a spacefaring craft. Life signs? Zeichtel queried, her natural caution warring with scientific curiosity. None detected, Captain. The vessel appears to be completely powered down. Environmental systems are offline. Based on the dust accumulation patterns, I estimate it has been adrift for at least 15 standard cycles. Zeichtel's scales rippled with interest. Origin? Unknown, Captain. The design doesn't match any known spacefaring species in our database. However, Renth paused, his crystalline sensors pulsing with excitement, were detecting writing on the hull. Linguistic analysis suggests it's from a pre-spacefaring world we've been monitoring. Earth. The bridge fell silent. Earth was a curiosity among Confederation scientists, a world that showed promise but seemed stuck in its development. Its inhabitants built crude structures, burned fossil fuels, and constantly fought among themselves. The idea that they could have built a spacecraft of this size was impossible. Prepare a boarding team, Zeichtel ordered. Full containment protocols. If this is truly of Earth origin, we need to understand how they acquired this technology. The boarding team, led by Security Chief Vaxley, transported aboard the derelict vessel an hour later. Their environmental suits, necessary in the zero-atmosphere environment, cast eerie lights through the darkened corridors. Captain, you need to see this. Vaxley's voice crackled through the comm. We're in what appears to be a research laboratory. The technology here, it's unlike anything we've encountered. Explain, Zeichtel commanded, her scales darkening with concern. The humans, they didn't copy technology, Captain. They developed it independently, but their approach is completely different from ours. Where we use crystal matrices and quantum harmonics, they use something they call integrated circuits. Their computers are primitive, yet incredibly complex. It's as if they took the most difficult path possible to achieve spaceflight and somehow succeeded. Zeichtel's unease grew. The Confederation had assumed Earth would develop along predictable lines, eventually discovering quantum harmonics and joining galactic society. Instead, they had forged their own path, creating technologies the Confederation's scientists had never even considered. There's more, Vaxley continued. We found their research logs. This vessel, they called it the UES Prometheus, was conducting experiments in faster-than-light travel. But their approach, Captain, they were trying to bend space itself, not through quantum fields, but through something they called Alcubierre drive theory. The implications were staggering. The humans hadn't just developed spaceflight. They'd developed it in ways that defied Confederation understanding of scientific progress. They hadn't climbed the expected ladder of technological advancement. They'd built their own ladder, using materials and concepts the Confederation had never considered viable. Captain, First Observer Renth interrupted, his voice urgent. I'm detecting energy signatures. The vessel. It's not as dormant as we thought. There are systems still functioning, buried deep within its structure. Before Zeichtel could respond, alarms blared across the Light of Dawn's bridge. multiple vessels dropping out of faster-than-light travel. The sensor operator announced. Design matches the derelict, but these are active. 3 ships materialized around the light of dawn, their angular forms bristling with what were unmistakably weapon systems. Unlike the derelict, these vessels hummed with power, their hull plates shifting and realigning in ways that defied Confederation sensors. A transmission cut through all Confederation frequencies. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Navy vessel Vigilant. You are currently interfering with a restricted research site. Stand down immediately and prepare to explain your presence here. Zictel's scales paled. The humans hadn't just achieved spaceflight. They had mastered it. The derelict wasn't abandoned. It was a trap, a honeypot designed to draw in curious aliens and reveal their capabilities. All boarding teams, return immediately, she ordered, trying to keep her voice steady. Prepare for emergency quantum jump. Negative, came the human response. Your drive signatures are logged. Attempt to flee, and we will interpret it as hostile action. You've stumbled into something much bigger than you realize, Captain. The question is, what are we going to do about it? As Zictel watched the human vessels take up tactical positions around her ship, she realized the Confederation had made a terrible mistake. They had dismissed humanity as primitive because they didn't follow the expected path of development. Now, that same humanity had caught them in a trap centuries in the making. The derelict Prometheus hung silently in space, its dark hull now seeming less abandoned and more watchful. Humanity hadn't needed to copy alien technology. They had developed their own, and in doing so, had achieved something far more valuable, the element of surprise. Open a channel, Zictel commanded, her scales now showing the pattern of formal diplomatic contact. It seems we have much to discuss with our colleagues from Earth. The human response was immediate. Indeed we do, Captain. Indeed we do. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Vigilant, studying the alien vessel through the advanced quantum imaging display. The Confederation ship was beautiful in its own way, all curved lines and crystalline structures that seemed to flow like liquid metal. But beauty, she knew, often hid danger. Analysis complete, Captain. Lieutenant Marcus Wong reported from his station. Their quantum scanning attempts gave us everything we needed. Their technology is exactly as our deep space probes suggested, entirely dependent on crystalline computing and quantum harmonics. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The aliens had fallen for humanity's oldest trick, showing them what they expected to see. The Prometheus had been designed specifically for this purpose, filled with enough genuine human technology to be convincing, but carefully crafted to appear more primitive than it actually was. Status of our stealth systems, she asked. Operating at full capacity, Captain, Marcus replied. Their sensors are still trying to get a clear reading of our hull composition. They're following exactly the pattern intelligence predicted, attempting to classify our technology according to their development scale. The humans had learned long ago that their greatest advantage wasn't technological superiority, but technological divergence, while the Confederation had pursued what they saw as the only logical path of development. Humanity had explored countless alternatives, developing technologies that often seemed crude but proved remarkably effective. Signal from the Confederation vessel, Communications Officer Yuki Tanaka announced. Their captain is requesting permission to speak with their boarding team. Denied, Sarah responded firmly. Maintain quarantine protocols. Dr. Martinez, what have you learned from their scan attempts? Dr. Elena Martinez, the ship's chief scientist, looked up from her holographic display. It's fascinating, Captain. Their quantum-based scanning technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also predictable. They can't understand our ships because they're looking for technology that simply isn't there. We don't use quantum matrices for computing. We use our hybrid biological electronic systems. To their sensors, it must look like random noise. This was humanity's true advantage. While the Confederation had perfected quantum computing, Humans had developed computers that combined traditional electronics with engineered biological components. It wasn't more advanced. It was simply different, and that difference made human technology nearly impossible for the aliens to analyze or counter. "Captain," Marcus interrupted, detecting power fluctuations in the Confederation vessel. "They appear to be attempting to bring their weapons online." Sarah shook her head. "Predictable. Deploy the dampening field." The Vigilant and its sister ships activated their most closely guarded secret. Invisible waves of carefully modulated energy spread out from the human vessels, designed specifically to interfere with crystalline-based technology. On the Confederation ship, systems began to flicker and fail. "This is Captain Chen to Confederation vessel," Sarah broadcast. "That was a demonstration. Your weapons and primary drive systems are now offline. Secondary systems will follow in approximately 30 seconds. Would you like to continue this escalation, or shall we discuss matters civilly?" The response was immediate. "This is Captain Zeichel. Please, hold your attack. We surrender." Sarah's expression remained neutral, but inwardly she felt a twinge of sympathy. The aliens weren't evil, just arrogant, convinced their path of technological development was the only valid one. It was a common failing among spacefaring races, according to humanity's secret observations. "Dr. Martinez," she called, "begin preparing the cultural package." "Captain Zeichel, what you're experiencing isn't an attack. It's a safety protocol. We've been studying your civilization for decades. We know how your technology works, its strengths and its weaknesses. The Prometheus was left here as a test, to see how your people would react to evidence of different technological approaches." On the main screen, the alien captain's scales shifted in patterns that the human xenologists had learned to recognize as confusion and disbelief. "You studied us, but we thought that we were primitive," Sarah finished. "That we were centuries behind you technologically. Look at your sensor readings, Captain. Look at what's actually there, not what you expect to see." The dampening field weakened slightly, allowing the aliens to partially restore their sensors. For the first time, they saw the human ships as they truly were, not crude approximations of Confederation technology, but something entirely different. Where Confederation ships used crystalline matrices, human vessels combined traditional materials with bioengineered components. Where alien computers relied on quantum states, human systems used a complex dance of electronics and engineered living tissue. "Impossible," one of the alien bridge officers whispered, the translation coming through clearly. "Their technology. It's not inferior or superior. It's just different," Sarah completed. "We chose a different path. While you perfected quantum computing, we explored biological computing. While you mastered crystalline energy matrices, we developed organic power systems. Different doesn't mean wrong, Captain Zeichel. It just means there's more than one way to reach the stars." The alien captain's scales had shifted to a pattern indicating deep thought. "The Prometheus, it was a test. One of many," Sarah confirmed. "We've been watching, learning, preparing. We knew first contact was inevitable, but we wanted it to happen on our terms. We needed to know how you'd react to evidence of alternative technological development. Your response, attempting to classify us according to your standards rather than trying to understand our differences, told us everything we needed to know." "And now?" Zeichel asked, her translated voice carrying a note of genuine curiosity. Sarah smiled, a genuine expression this time. "Now we talk. Really talk. About how two civilizations with completely different approaches to technology and development can learn from each other. But first, you need to understand something fundamental about humanity. We don't follow paths. We make them." The dampening field continued to hold the Confederation ship in its gentle grip, a reminder of how much humanity had learned while remaining hidden. But as Sarah looked at the alien vessel's beautiful crystalline structure, she felt hope. Sometimes, the best way to make peace was to first prove you were capable of winning a war. Your boarding team will be returned unharmed, she announced. And then, Captain Zeichtel, I believe it's time for humanity to formally introduce itself to the galaxy. Not as primitives to be studied, but as equals who chose a different way. The stars watched silently as two civilizations began the delicate process of understanding not just each other's technology, but each other's way of thinking. It was, Sarah reflected, a first contact worth waiting for. The observation deck of United Earth Station Horizon offered a spectacular view of Earth's orbital shipyards. Captain Zeichtel watched, her scales shifting between patterns of awe and disbelief, as human vessels of various designs moved with practiced precision through the construction areas. Each ship was different, some angular and aggressive, others smooth and streamlined, a few appearing to be little more than frameworks of advanced materials. You're wondering why none of our ships look alike, Admiral James Rodriguez said, noting her reaction. The senior human officer had been assigned as liaison to the Confederation delegation, and over the past week had found himself repeatedly explaining concepts that challenged alien understanding. In the Confederation, Zeichtel replied, ship design follows natural progression. Each advancement builds upon proven patterns. This, she gestured at the varied fleet, seems chaotic. James smiled. We have a saying. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Every ship out there represents a different approach to space travel and combat. Some failed, some succeeded, but each taught us something valuable. A massive vessel caught Zeichtel's attention. Its hull seemed to ripple and shift, almost like it was breathing. That one, it appears to be alive. The UES synthesis, James confirmed. Our first successful biomechanical hybrid capital ship. The hull is partially grown, rather than built, using engineered organisms that form symbiotic relationships with traditional materials. It can repair itself, adapt to damage, even evolve to counter new threats. Zeichtel's scales displayed patterns of scientific fascination mixed with horror. But why take such a difficult path? Quantum crystalline technology is proven, efficient, and predictable, James interrupted gently. If every spacefaring race develops along the same technological path, they all share the same vulnerabilities. Humanity chose to explore every possible avenue of advancement, no matter how unconventional. A small craft zipped past the observation window, so fast it was barely visible. That, James continued, is our latest stealth scout. It uses metamaterials that bend light and other forms of energy around it. The principles came from studying deep-sea creatures on Earth. You model your technology on primitive life forms. Zeichtel couldn't keep the disbelief from her voice. Nature spent billions of years solving complex problems through evolution. We'd be fools not to learn from those solutions. James turned to face her directly. That's what your people don't understand about humans, Captain. We don't see technology as a ladder to climb. We see it as a tree with countless branches to explore. Their conversation was interrupted by a priority alert. A holographic display materialized, showing first observer Renth's agitated face. Captain, Admiral, you need to see this. We've detected something impossible. The scene shifted to a deep space sensor feed. A massive object was moving through the void, its surface a perfect black that seemed to swallow light itself. It was heading directly for Confederation space. We've never seen anything like it, Renth reported. Our sensors can't penetrate its surface. It's not responding to any known form of communication. James studied the image, his expression grave. But we have seen something like it. Captain Chen, are you receiving this? Sarah Chen's voice came through clearly. Confirmed, Admiral. The object matches theoretical profiles of the artifacts we detected near the Carina Nebula last year. We never got close enough to study them, but our biological sensors detected patterns consistent with advanced machine intelligence. Machine intelligence. Zeichtel's scales paled. Like computers. No, Sarah replied. Like something that evolved from machines. Something that grew beyond its creator's intentions. something that sees organic life as an inefficiency to be corrected. James turned to Zyktal. Captain, I need you to contact your superiors immediately. What you're seeing is exactly why humanity developed such varied technologies. We knew that somewhere out there, something would exist that conventional defenses couldn't stop. We needed options, as many as possible. The implications hit Zyktal like a physical force. Humanity hadn't developed their bizarre mix of technologies out of ignorance or stubbornness. They had done it because they understood something the Confederation had forgotten. The galaxy was vast, and somewhere in that vastness lurked threats that couldn't be fought with standard methods. The synthesis, she said slowly. Your biomechanical ships. They're not just experiments. They're weapons against machine intelligence. Among other things, James confirmed, living systems are inherently chaotic, adaptable. They can change in ways that pure machines find difficult to predict. The Prometheus trap wasn't just to test your reactions, Captain. It was to prepare for first contact with either potential allies or potential threats. New alerts flashed across the displays. More objects were appearing, all bearing the same light-absorbing surface. The machine intelligences weren't sending a scout. They were launching an invasion. Admiral, Sarah's voice cut through the tension. The Vigilant Battle Group is ready. We've activated the biological countermeasures, and the synthesis reports its adaptive systems are fully online. But, she paused, we could use some help from our quantum crystalline friends. James looked at Zyktal. Well, Captain, ready to see what happens when we combine your perfect crystalline technology with our chaotic biological systems. Zyktal's scales shifted to a pattern that humans had never seen before, one that combined determination, fear, and a strange sort of hope. The Confederation has never faced a threat like this. Neither have we, James admitted. But that's the point. Humanity didn't develop all these different technologies because we knew what we'd be fighting. We did it because we didn't know. And right now, that uncertainty might be our greatest strength. As the alien machines approached, humanity's bizarre fleet began to move. Biomechanical ships pulsed with living energy, stealth vessels disappeared from sensors, and conventional warships formed up alongside their Confederation allies. Each vessel was different, each technology unique, and in that diversity lay their best hope for survival. The real test of humanity's approach to technology was about to begin. And somewhere in the void, machine intelligences were about to learn that not all organic life followed predictable patterns. The vast blackness of the machine vessels stretched across space like an oil slick among the stars. On the bridge of the UES synthesis, Dr. Elena Martinez watched her biological sensors paint a very different picture than conventional scanners. Where standard sensors showed only void, her engineered organisms detected complex patterns of information flow. They're not just ships, she announced to the combined Human Confederation command staff. They're nodes in a network. Each vessel is part of a larger intelligence. First observer Renth's crystalline sensors pulsed in agreement. Confirmed. The quantum state fluctuations suggest massive data transfer between units. Their thinking has one entity, which means they'll expect us to do the same, Captain Chen interjected from the Vigilant. Standard military doctrine, unified command and control. But that's not how we fight. Admiral Rodriguez stood at the center of the synthesis organic bridge, where living tissue merged seamlessly with advanced materials. Begin Operation Chaos Theory. All ships, execute according to your specific protocols. The human fleet broke formation, each vessel or group moving according to its own unique programming. The Vigilant and her stealth group simply vanished from sensors. The synthesis and other bioships began to pulse with strange energies that mimicked natural phenomena. Conventional warships split into seemingly random patterns. What are you doing? Zyktal demanded from her position aboard the Confederation flagship. You're breaking every rule of fleet combat. Exactly, Rodriguez smiled. Because their combat algorithms will be based on those rules. Lieutenant Wong, begin the broadcast. Across all frequencies, human ships began transmitting. Not tactical data or coordinates, but music. Classical, rock, jazz, folk songs from 100 cultures. The Confederation ships registered the cacophony with confusion, but in the void between the fleets, the machine intelligences hesitated. They're trying to understand the pattern. Dr. Martinez explained, watching her biological sensors. Their networks are devoting massive resources to analyzing our transmissions, looking for the hidden command codes that must be there. But there are no codes. It's just human creativity in its purest form. The machine fleet's advance slowed as it attempted to process this illogical behavior. That was when the first true surprise was sprung. Quantum insertion complete, Renth announced. While the machines were distracted by the musical broadcast, Confederation ships had used their advanced quantum technology to seed crystalline processors throughout the enemy formation. But these weren't normal computing crystals. They had been grown in laboratories where human biological engineering met Confederation quantum science. Begin organic evolution sequence, Rodriguez ordered. The hybrid crystals activated, introducing chaos into the machine network. Like a virus entering a living body, they began to replicate and change, using principles borrowed from both human and Confederation technology. The machine intelligence's perfect network began experiencing something it had never encountered: mutation. Multiple targets showing signs of confusion, Wong reported. Their coordination is breaking down. Individual units are starting to act independently as the network fragments. That was when the Vigilant and her stealth group revealed themselves, not through conventional detection, but by the holes they created in the machine network. Like shadows moving through light, they disrupted communications between machine vessels, further isolating them from the group mind. Now, Rodriguez commanded, show them why diversity is strength. Each human ship began employing its unique capabilities. The synthesis released clouds of engineered organisms that attached themselves to machine hulls, interfering with their perfect surfaces. Conventional warships launched warheads that carried not explosives, but complex electromagnetic pulses modulated by quantum crystals. Stealth vessels darted between enemy ships, their metamaterial hulls creating interference patterns that confused machine sensors. Fascinating, Renth observed. Each human ship acts independently, yet somehow maintains coherence with the overall strategy. It's like an ecosystem, Dr. Martinez supplied. In nature, individual species act according to their own imperatives, yet the whole system remains in balance. We're not fighting as a fleet. We're fighting as an environment. The machine intelligence, designed to counter unified opposition, found itself facing something unprecedented. Every time it adapted to one form of attack, 3 others struck from different angles using different principles. Human biological technology merged with Confederation quantum science in ways that defy prediction. They're retreating, Zeichtal announced, her scales showing patterns of astonishment. The entire machine fleet is withdrawing. Not retreating, Rodriguez corrected. Evolving. They'll be back, but they'll be different. And so will we. In the aftermath of the battle, as human and Confederation ships regrouped, Dr. Martinez studied the data from her biological sensors. The machine intelligence had left behind traces, quantum echoes and digital fragments that told a story. They were old, she reported, perhaps millions of years old. They evolved from some ancient civilization's AI network, growing and spreading through the galaxy. But they had never encountered anything like us, a species that deliberately cultivated technological chaos as a defense mechanism. Not chaos, Rodriguez said softly. Diversity. Every path we took in developing our technology, every strange combination we tried, every failure we learned from, it all led to this moment. We didn't just survive first contact with an advanced machine intelligence. We showed them something new. Zeichtal's scales shifted to a pattern of deep understanding. Your ship designs, your varying technologies, they're not just different approaches to the same problems. They're an assertion of organic life itself, messy, unpredictable, creative. Life finds a way, Dr. Martinez quoted with a smile. It's an old movie line, but it's true. By embracing every possible path of development, humanity didn't just prepare for threats like this. We ensured that life itself would continue to evolve and adapt. As the combined fleet began repairs and preparations for the machine intelligence's inevitable return, something unprecedented was happening. Confederation scientists were eagerly consulting with human engineers, looking for ways to introduce controlled chaos into their perfect quantum systems. Human biological engineers were learning how to incorporate crystalline computing into their organic designs. Two approaches to technology, once thought incompatible, were beginning to merge. And somewhere in the void, a machine intelligence was processing new data about the true nature of organic life, not as an inefficiency to be corrected, but as a source of innovation it had never imagined possible. 3 months after the machine intelligence's retreat, Earth's orbital shipyards had transformed. Where once human and Confederation vessels had maintained careful separation, now they worked side by side. The massive biomechanical form of the UES synthesis floated next to a Confederation cruiser, tendrils of engineered tissue interweaving with crystalline structures in a deliberate merger of technologies. Admiral Rodriguez stood in the newly established Joint Innovation Center, watching teams of human and alien scientists collaborate on projects that would have seemed impossible just months ago. Dr. Martins and First Observer Renth had become an particularly effective team, their different approaches to science complementing each other in unexpected ways. "Look at this," Renth's excited voice carried across the lab. His crystalline sensors pulsed rapidly as he examined a hybrid computing node. Organic tissue grown around a quantum crystal core. The biological components aren't just supporting the quantum processes, they're enhancing them. The chaos of organic systems is actually improving computational efficiency. Dr. Martinez nodded, her hands dancing across a holographic interface, and the crystalline structure provides stability to the biological elements, allowing for controlled evolution rather than random mutation. It's the best of both approaches. Captain Zeichel, now serving as the Confederation's chief liaison to Earth, approached Rodriguez. Her scales displayed a pattern he had learned to recognize as thoughtful amusement. A year ago, the idea of merging our technologies would have been considered heresy. Now, my scientists are practically demanding permission to study human methods. "Necessity is the mother of invention," Rodriguez replied. "But curiosity is its father. Your people had perfected your technology to such a degree that you stopped looking for alternatives. We never stopped looking." A priority alert drew their attention to the main display. Captain Chen's face appeared, her expression serious but not alarmed. The Vigilant had been leading long-range patrols, watching for signs of the machine intelligence's return. "We've detected something," she reported. "Not the machines, but, well, you need to see this." The display shifted to show a distant sector of space. A massive structure was taking shape there, assembled from both machine components and what appeared to be grown materials. It was neither purely mechanical nor purely organic, but something in between. "They're building," Chen continued, "but not for war. Our analysis suggests it's some kind of research facility. They're experimenting, learning, just like us." Rodriguez shared a look with Zeichel. They encountered something they couldn't simply overwrite or destroy, he mused. Instead of doubling down on their existing approach, they're adapting, Zeichel finished. Like humanity did, like the Confederation is learning to do. In the months since their devastating retreat, the machine intelligence had been silent. Now they knew why. Like organic life adapting to a new environment, they were evolving, not to better destroy organic life, but to better understand it. "We should send a diplomatic mission," Zeichel suggested, her scales showing a pattern that mixed caution with curiosity. "Not just human or Confederation, but both. Show them the full spectrum of our combined potential." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "Agreed. But not just diplomats. We send scientists, engineers, dreamers. Show them that diversity isn't a weakness to be corrected. It's the source of true advancement. Dr. Martinez looked up from her work. The hybrid computers were developing. They could serve as a translation medium, something that bridges the gap between organic and machine thinking, between order and chaos, Renth added, between perfection and evolution. The implications spread through the Joint Innovation Center like ripples in a pond. Humanity had first surprised the Confederation with their divergent technology. Together, they had shocked the machine intelligence with their combined capabilities. Now they might achieve something even more remarkable: genuine communication between organic and artificial life. Captain Chin Rodriguez called, maintain observation of the structure, but no aggressive moves. Let's see what they're building toward. And in the meantime, Zeichtal added, we have work to do. Her scales shifted to a pattern of determination. The Confederation Council has approved my recommendation. We're establishing joint research bases throughout our territory, places where human creativity can merge with our quantum science. Rodriguez smiled. And Earth's governments have approved similar measures. We're opening our biological engineering facilities to Confederation scientists. The old barriers are coming down. In the shipyards outside, the UES synthesis had completed its modification. Its biomechanical hull now incorporated quantum crystalline nodes, while the Confederation cruiser beside it sported patches of engineered tissue. They were the first of a new class of vessels, ships that represented not just an alliance between species, but a fundamental shift in how both civilizations approach technology. You know what the most remarkable thing is? Dr. Martinez asked, looking at her latest hybrid creation. We're not just combining technologies anymore. We're creating entirely new possibilities. The quantum organic computers we're developing. They can do things neither of our civilizations thought possible. Because they're not bound by our preconceptions, Renth agreed. Like humanity itself, they're free to explore every possibility. As night fell over the Earth side of the station, the combined fleet hung in orbit like stars themselves. Each ship was different, some purely human, some purely Confederation, and a growing number that were gloriously, purposefully both. They were no longer just defenders against external threats. They had become symbols of a greater truth, that the surest path to advancement wasn't through perfection, but through diversity. The machine intelligence would return, not as conquerors, but as seekers of understanding. And when they did, they would find something unprecedented. A civilization that had embraced both chaos and order, both organic and mechanical, both evolution and design. In doing so, humanity and the Confederation hadn't just survived their greatest challenge. They had transcended it. In the depths of space, countless paths of development stretched out before them, each one waiting to be explored. And this time, they would explore them together.